Hello everybody and welcome back to another Dwarf Fortress idea. In this video I'm building off of the theories that I built in the last video, teaching dwarves to swim, where we throw dwarves into a piece of water inside of a minecart, drowning them temporarily so that when they pop out the other side, they're in theory learning to swim. Well, we're going to try something else. Now, this is based off of a little line from the wiki, which I think is most interesting, where it says, most creatures, with notable exceptions due to inorganic ones, such as Iron Men, most creatures have a layer of fat between skin and muscle. Because of its relatively low melting point, the fat is usually the first thing to go if a creature burns. Creatures may have varying levels of fat, even when of the same species, or caste. In a dwarf's description, for example, it may state that their relative amount of fat compared to their racial average. There's one very specific line in this wiki page. It's usually the first thing to go if the creature burns. What if I set a dwarf on fire for a couple of seconds using lava, and then immediately use water to put the fire out? If you want a little bit more detail on how to actually build this exact design, me talking a little bit more about how the design works, simply watch the previous video in this ideas series. This is an underappreciated playlist that I've kind of neglected a little bit, and kind of want to try and bring back since, you know, tutorializing basic things isn't the most interesting thing to do these days. The actual design for the setup is pretty simple. It just simply uses water on the left side and then lava on the right side. The water on the left side is coming from a lake that's up on the surface of this fort, and then the spicy water on the right is going to come from a volcano. The volcano is just simply sitting at the center of the map. When I initially started filling this setup with water, I kind of screwed up a little bit and accidentally let some water into the right, but fortunately I was able to block it off fast enough before it started to cause actual issues. Also, shutting the flow of the water off up top helped a little bit with this problem. Once it was set up and constructed, we then set up all of our magma-safe materials so that I could bring in the lava for the right side of the setup. Once the lava and the water are all in place, the way the setup works is pretty simple. The water is powering some water wheels, which is powering all of the mechanisms and the axles. The bottom of the trenches have rollers going from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen, and the idea is a minecart will dip down through the middle, up and out, dump the lava out back into the lava in the centerpiece, and then dip down through the water, and then dump the water out into a separate reservoir so that there is no contamination and the dwarf doesn't, continue drowning in the minecart and we don't end up with a minecart full of water. Turns out this wasn't an issue because once I actually started using the device itself, the dwarf in the minecart was stopping the minecart from filling, so it turns out that that wasn't necessary, which is a little bit of a shame because I was kind of hoping I could dump dwarven fat onto my enemies' heads, but I digress. We can't win at everything. Now, as you can see, we have our first victim, who dives in, immediately bursts into flames, and then is extinguished in the water side. And then once the dwarf jumps out of the minecart, you can see that there is blood everywhere. Now, this is very good that the dwarf is bleeding heavily. This means that they have not only caught fire and been extinguished immediately, but they've also expelled all of their body fat mixed in with that blood. Now, this means that this dwarf is now skinny. They won't gain the skinny trait in their description, however, they will likely, if you check this within Dwarf Therapist or one other third-party tool, it will likely show that this dwarf is now very low, if not zero, fat content. They also got a little swimming lesson while they were at it. Now, if they have any permanent injuries from this, that's very unfortunate. However, those can be cured quite quickly at the hospital. So I recommend that if a dwarf is feeling upset after their trip on the Funtime Minecart Flame Machine, it might be time for them to go get a stay at Dr. Bone Doctor's office to have some of their skin removed. Also, you may notice that we decided to attach a lovely statue of our chinchilla god, Dusty be his pelt. Overall, this is a goofy little experiment, and I'm not entirely certain how well it is actually working. I know that there's always been tales in Dwarf Fortress of setting dwarves on fire to burn their fat out, and from what I can tell upon deeper inspection of this, I had multiple dwarves that had dwarf fat grease on their armor as a contaminant after coming out of the lava. So to me, this means that the dwarves are not only catching fire and melting their body fat while it's in the lava, it's also burning off before they make the exit. I also tried some little bits of experimentation afterwards to see if I could collect the fat down beneath some grates, which was unsuccessful, and unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier in the video, one of my hopes for this experiment was to be able to dump boiling dwarven fat on enemies' heads through a grate, but because the minecart doesn't actually fill up from my experiments, maybe you can get one to fill up, I don't think I can do that, unfortunately, which I'm quite disappointed by. Overall, I do think that there are some fun implications of this, just in a dwarven kind of test your might kind of way, and I think it was a fun experiment to kind of put together, and I don't know if it's something I will actually use in my fortresses, but it is kind of hysterical. Is this something you'd use? Would you build one of these? Are you going to do more experimentation? If you're able to get it to rain dwarven fat on an enemy's head, please let me know down in the description, because I would love to see it. I'm going to be doing some more experimenting with this over the next week or so, and see if I can get some fun stuff together in the VODs, and if I do, I will definitely make a video on that in the future. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.